journey in media and entertainment. Again, started my journey in basically in the finance sector, but broadly for last 5 odd years, 7 odd years, I have been responsible for managing the businesses. Spent largely 2 or 3 stints in this space. I have been in the early, it's part of my career. I was a part of UTV, a company which later on was acquired by Walt Disney in India, and currently it's called Disney India. And UTV, when I joined that time, it was a Ronnie Screwvala company, and it's an unlisted company, and we were a part of the listing process 2005. Then I was a founding member of the Viacom India at that point of time. Again, took that company to a listing in 2006, and probably last more than a decade, 14 odd years in Reliance. So coming to media and entertainment, I will give you some, probably what I'll do is that I'll probably give some broad perspective and probably give some sector perspective in terms of the broad subsectors within media and entertainment, and then also give a flavor that how do we take a call in terms of running some of the segments in terms of content, green lighting, marketing, monetization of the opportunities, and etc. So, as I was mentioning, I'll give some ideas or some flavors of my own journey into this space. When I first joined this sector, and I came from, as I mentioned I came from very hardcore FMCG sector, where the life is to get driven by everything is measurable, right? Everything is to be measured through an S. Nielsen report and market research and penetration, and what is your market share this month vis-a-vis what is Hindustan Lever doing. And so I came from a very organized, very measurable, very tough world where sales and marketing as a core sector of any driven. They are the engine of a business. When I came and joined in media, for first few months or at least for first 5-6 months, I was constantly grappling because in the entire world is intangible. There is nothing tangible. I came from an organization where I remember even my first day, first of all, I got a little amount of shock, and I'm talking of early 2000, right? 2018, 20 years back. Came from a very structured organization like Godrej, then joined a small vertical, a much smaller organization, UTV, which later on became Disney India, the different story. The color of the walls, everything was different, right? It was a very colorful offices, no processes. There's complete democratization. Everybody can reach across to everyone. So it's very different, very cultural shock from me, from coming from a very organized structure. And then I was reading the balance sheet, and I first saw that, okay, the company, I was looking at a finance guy, I was looking at the inventory, and I saw some 40-50 crore inventory. So I made my mental maths that if an organization has a 40-50 crore inventory, they must be having large CNFA or large factories. So I checked with them that where is your warehouse? The admin guy couldn't understand that what is warehouse. So I said, where are your stocks? So he couldn't understand. So then later one guy, I said, where is your inventory? He said, sir, the next cabin after yours. So I couldn't figure out what does it mean. So I figured out the next cabin, they just kept all the tapes. So in a content world, in an intangible world, that is my first reaction, that nothing is tangible. Everything gets converted into an intangible property, and that property you can keep, maybe in today's world, you can keep it in a Google Drive, right? That's your asset. But over a period of time, I understood that while media and entertainment from outside looks very different, or probably it looks like, okay, people are selling dreams, or people are selling with not a matter of how much is the thought process and etc. has gone. And we judge also when we go outside, we see a film, we judge that how does it happen? Something is bad, something is good, but it has its science and arts together. A lot of science goes behind in this business, and it has its. The only problem in this business, again, I'm giving a little bit of periphery before coming to the core area, is that probably apart from live sports or apart from sports, this is one sector where everybody can have a point of view. Means like as a CEO of a company, when my movie film, suppose if I am working for 2 years on a particular film and a film releases on a Friday, probably by the morning my driver knows that abhi sir ka lag gaya kya sir hai, because it's out in the domain that it has it worked or not. I have worked in, as I told you, I worked in hardcore FMCG, and in suppose if a particular soap brand of Godrej is working or not, it is a discussion which is in a particular set of people, maybe within a particular set of your wholesaler, retailer, community, office, R&D, etc. But media and entertainment, everyone has a point of view. Everyone can have a point of view. You can be judged by everyone in terms of your success and failures, or in terms of, so we are constantly under a certain kind of a glare. We are constantly under a magnifying glass to say how you are performing or not. But leave aside those parts. I mean, now coming to the, probably let me give you some flavor of where does this industry stand. Let me give you one interesting thing which I've noticed. Almost 25, 28 years I'm seeing this industry. Last 25 years, every single year, the growth of media and entertainment sector is double the country's GDP growth. So if India's GDP is growing at 7%, we grow at 14%. If India's GDP is growing 5%, we are growing at 10%. If India's GDP is growing in the early stage, I mean, during that Manmohan Singh's timeline, first 10 years, is growing at 9 to 10%, we are growing at 20%. I have seen in my own time, which I spent in this industry. At some point of time, people used to say it's a low denominator and etc. So of course, we don't make so much of importance. But if something is happening consistently over a period of 25 years, then we better recognize that this is a sector which was small, and probably relatively also right now is a small, but within the service sector, but distinct amount of growth potential in this particular sector. So roughly, if you look at the overall piece, if India, we are saying that we'll have $3 trillion size of country GDP, it is roughly around a 25 billion. 2019, it was hovering around $24 billion. Of course, the COVID, the last year, it came down to 19 odd billion. We is expected to touch $25 billion this year, as per the KPMG reports and FICCI KPMG report. And in next couple of years, by 2023, we are expecting it is growing. Currently, it is growing 17% CAGR, and it is expected to touch around $31 billion. That's the overall pie, right? Number one. Number two, the sector gives substantial, while in terms of the size and scale, it is not necessarily one of the mover and shakers in the overall GDP situation. But the sector gives substantial number of employment, both direct as well as indirect. That's why in any government discussions or in any discussions where how this sector can bring overall improvement in the quality of the life, or overall improvement in terms of the society, that takes a very important role, because they give a substantial employment to the both direct as well as indirect labor, worker, employees, etc. The broad pies within this $25 odd billion of industry, if we look at it, television is the largest pie. When you speak television, the word television includes the broadcasting companies, means like a Star and Sony and Colors of the world. At the same point of time, it also includes all the television content makers. So even Balaji is also part of a definition of this. So television roughly accounts for 38-39% of the sector. So roughly within a $25 billion size of industry, $24 billion size of industry, television is roughly this year is expected to be close to $10.5 billion as a size of the market. It's a 30 years old industry. Prior to 1990, we used to have, also, I mean, of course, the old generation have not seen, but we have seen basically Doordarshan. So the content used to happen only in DD. But from 1990 onwards, we have seen the private channels. So the launch of Zee, launch of Star in India. Then, of course, the last 30 years, the television industry has grown so much that currently we are the world's second largest television market in terms of the consumer, or in terms of the subscriber. If we look at it, almost like 170 million subscribers, almost like 900 plus television channel, more than 1,000 odd MSOs, more than 100,000 plus local cable. It's a very complicated, television in India is a very complicated growing market. It's also complicated because that probably one thought underlying thought we should also keep in the part of this whole discussion, and that will come relevant for every sector when you speak. India is also, in terms of this space, is virtually like a mini Europe, because we make content in almost 20-25 languages. If we look at the number of languages, the multilingual content creation opportunity, the only part which we can compare probably is Europe. We have almost like 20 to 25 odd languages in which we make content. I mean, you look at it, I mean, Hindi and Tamil and Telugu and Kannada, every language, we make so much of content. And that's what makes even the television industry is also in the same way. I mean, you have to get local content, you have to have your local presence. So the strategies are like so much complicated, it's so much of challenging, because you have to have your market positioning, marketing, distribution strategy, everything has to be localized. What is happening in Calcutta probably not dramatically different, but will be very different what is happening in Kannada market, right? So to sum up the television sector, when we say television, as I told you, we talk of the broadcasters, we talk of the creators, means the content software producers, and broadly the second largest TV market in the world. Close to 900 plus satellite TV channels is a growing market, but the growth of television sector is as a percentage of growth is slow. I mean, I think we are looking at broadly around 7 to 8% CAGR television market is growing, but it's a huge market. I mean, if you look at the number, hardly 170 million subscribers, a country of 1.3 billion population. So still there is a significant headroom to grow. The segment after the television segment, if you look at from the again, if we look from point of view, a matured market, will probably the segment which I'll touch upon probably is the film. Film is 110 years, of course, close to 110 years old industry. From early 1910, the first film, in the film, Indian film came. But this industry also over a phase of last 110 years, it has seen multiple changes. Again, if I look at film industry in Indian, not so much in the value per length, but if I look at that industry, it is again one of the world's largest segment, largest market, if I want to talk of it. It is close to, we make close to 2,000 odd Indian films every year. Close to 2,000 odd films we made every year, close to 1 billion tickets are sold, cinema tickets are sold every year. Where we definitely can't compare to the value chain, or we can't compare to the comparison of the larger market, is in terms of the ticket pricing. So in India, of course, the ticket pricings are dramatically low in compared to the larger market. So when you look at the film, the area which needs dramatic support of government, or it requires a lot of support from government because it won't happen with the private sector only, is the number of screen. A country of 1.3 billion population, we have hardly 9,500 odd screen, not 10,000 odd screen. Actually, number of screens have came down over the years. When I started my career probably 15-20 years odd back in the film space, from then to now, it has came down. I think we used to talk about 12,500 odd screen. It has came down to some 9,500, 10,000. Of course, the screens have now more converted into multiplex. So there has been improvement in the ticket pricing. So there has been improvement in the overall value. There has been improvement in the experience of the film viewing. And I will go to each of this segment and also talk a little bit of flavor that how does the whole marketing happen and how does the whole program creation happen and etc. And again, just to give some benchmark, and you guys will be able to make a benchmark. Like if you look at US is probably 1/3 of our population, or slightly that kind of a number. US has close to 40,000 screen in a cinema screen. If you look at China probably a decade back, 10, 12 years back, used to have the same number of screens. They also used to have 8,000, 9,000 odd screen. And in those days, we used to have 12,000 odd screens. So China used to be less than us. In China today, we have 75,000 screens. So this investment or this infrastructure setup has to happen. You need to have a public support, or basically public sector, the government sector has to come with the support, which has happened both for, especially for China, definitely. So in my own experience, I think there is a significant headroom possible, significant growth potential possible in the film industry. Currently, the industry in terms of value terms is close to $2 billion size industry. Again, it is growing, is expected to grow in next couple of years. It's a significant level, of course, to offset also the COVID degrowth and etc. expected to be like close to like a $3.2 billion industry next couple of years. Again, extremely, it has its own challenges and own nuances. Similarly, multiple languages. The market is also very close. Like in summer, if you have to say, there are probably 50 to 100 families who runs the show. Because every market, if you look at it, if you come to Bollywood or if you come to Tamil, if you come to Telugu and etc., there are a set of directors and a set of actors and a set of producers who have been running this either as a family or who have been running as a group. And they have been continuing that business over a period. Not much of institutional money has come into this space. So that itself is another challenge, that how this sector will grow if so much of institutional money has not come into this space. But significant potential, and that potential we are now seeing with the advent of the digital space, or the advent of the digital growth. The third segment, which probably I will touch upon, let me also touch upon the digital or the OTT space. Now, this is one story. I think this is one story which is the best success story of India over the last 5 to 10 years in terms of the advent of the digital and how that opportunity has, this particular sector has taken it forward. Very basic, and why it is happening also in this particular space, we need to be cognizant of. There are certain basic KPIs or the certain basic facts has also helping India to take that position. Number one, India is extremely a young country. Okay, close to 650 million odd population, close to something around 53% of the people are less than 30 years of age. And that's exactly our target audience for anything what we do in media and entertainment and content space. A young country in terms of age and consumer. Point number two, in India, the data cost, advent of the geo and of course the advent of the whole space, we are probably one of, I think this is one of the world's cheapest data cost in the whole world, because we pay something around a 9 cent per GB as an average cost of data. Now you have a young population, you have a negligible, virtually free data cost. There is no reason to be surprised that this particular segment, digital as an overall space, will both implode as well as explode. And I'll touch upon the next sector later upon. It's not only digital and OTT, we are seeing similar growth in games. So when you look at digital and OTT, so a young country, close to almost like 800 odd million internet user, almost 450 million of smartphones in the country, data cost negligible. So in last 5 years or last 6-7 years, if we look at it, we are one of the world's largest video streaming country. We are one of the world's largest audio streaming country. We have become a country of gamers. We have become a country of shoppers. Look at the platform. Look at the large e-commerce platform. Look at the large gaming companies which are setting up their shops here. So we are probably one of the world's top 10 OTT market. Like now we are comparing ourselves with Hollywood or the Western market or North American market. Now North America, this space, they're working for at least 30 years, both in terms of television content as well as digital content. We are seeing this growth in last 5 years, but significant amount of work what is happening. And what is interesting, also there are other parameters which probably you guys need to apply your mind, and it's not necessarily, you'll find that data as a part of learning. Now, what is happening in this OTT, I'm sure you guys are familiar of OTT or the streaming platform, that part of the space. If you look at the country today, there are close to 40 odd platforms, 35 to 40 platforms there in this space. So you have all the large 3 global players, Amazon, Netflix, Disney+. Then you have all the broadcaster-led players. So you have a Voot by Viacom, you have a Sony Live by Sony, you have a ZEE5 by Zee, Sun Next by Sun. All the broadcasting platforms have set up their OTT platform. And then you have a list of companies who are doing great. Either they have created a niche for themselves in a regional market, or their overall India, they're creating a differentiator. So you have a company like Old Balaji, probably making a position for the AG content, right? You have a company like, say, Hoichoi as a platform, probably getting used for a Bengali content. Similarly, there is a platform called AHA, doing very good Telugu content. So every market, then there is a RA, then there is, so every market has created this space. Look at globally what is happening. Globally, with the advent of the digital, same thing is happening even globally. All the top 6 studios, and you guys must have heard of those names like Universal, Warner Brothers, Sony, Disney. Of all the top of the 6 odd studios, they have all already launched their platforms. Okay, so India, while we are sitting with 3 global platforms of Amazon, Netflix, and Disney Plus, I'm expecting that in next 6 months to 9 months time, Apple as well as HBO Max will launch their India content. As a platform, they're already available, but they're launching their India content also. Then there is a Peacock. Then there is a Lionsgate has already launched. So the global platforms, when they're launching their opportunities, they're starting their base market, which is North America. But unfortunately, that market, which is their base market or domestic market, is already getting saturated because there are 30, 40 large players pumping in billions of dollars in that space. So a market which is very much driven with subscriber, that means they have to get the paid subscriber. And if they find a saturation in their base market, their motive has to go outside. So while the outside can happen. So of course, all the players, most of the players are going towards Europe. But Europe in terms of number of subscribers, it is a much smaller base, right? So Europe cannot give them the number of value terms where they need to grow. Well, the people have an ability to pay, but Europe is small from that perspective. The third big opportunity is China. Now, if they have to come to Asia, they have to come to China. China, by the government laws, not a single global players are allowed to open their shops. So you have the Chinese players, you have the Alibaba, you have the Tencent, you have the IKEA. So all the local players are there, but not a single global players are allowed to open their shop. So they don't have a choice. The next 20 to 30 years, India market in the media and entertainment space, OTT space is going to grow phenomenally because the global players have no other choice but to segment this 1.3 billion population, young population, and a population which is willing to pay. It's extremely price sensitive, but at the same point of time, they need to open their shops here. There's no other choice, right? And last 3 to 4 years, we are all in some manner or other, we are piggybacking on that situation. Means if you just think through like probably 3 years back, 4 years back, let's take a situation 4 years back, why was this phenomena in the country? But today, if we discuss or if you just check with, among your friends and everyone, I think each one of you must be sampling at least 3 to 4 platforms. I think everyone must be sampling content in a Netflix and Amazon and Disney Plus, and then a couple of Indian platforms. Probably the appointed TV or linear TV is coming as a choice, is coming, is not getting the priority, but each one of us are getting into this space of sampling content in that. Now, what is triggering means why? So of course, in terms of the data and etc., the sector has been growing almost close to 22% CAGR year on year. The sector is almost the OTT space or the digital OTT space is already double the film industry size. Means an industry which took 110 years time to reach to a $2.1 billion market, the OTT is already a $4 billion market in the India. And hardly it is 5 years journey. We are expecting that between 21 to 25 in the next 4 years, as per the stated commitments of the large 3 players, which is Netflix, Amazon, and Disney Plus, they are looking at close to investing $4 billion in this market. Now, if this level of investment is happening in the market, it will go to 2 or 3 places. Either it will go in creating new content. So it's a great time for the creators, writers, actors, talents. So it's creating a situation what IPL did for India 10 years back. When first IPL came, the cricket became a small town, small village-wise aspiration and how to come to the top of the league, right? Today, the digital and OTT has done the same democratization. It has taken the stories or it has taken the opportunities across the country to the smallest of the town, to the smallest of the villages, and everyone who is a great writer or a great storyteller or a great actor is finding opportunities to come and get themselves sampled into this box, right? So a $4 billion market already. We are expecting a $4 billion investment in the next 3 to 4 years. It's as per the commitments of Ted Sarandos or Jeff Bezos of the world. At least another 3 to 4 equal size players are knocking already on the door in this market, which is Apple, HBO Max, and Peacock. They are already launched in US quite some time back, and probably will be followed by more large players like Hulu and etc. of the world. So this space is helping us to grow not only the content and the storytellers, it is also pushing the opportunity to the content creators and to the market acquisition opportunities. So that means also to the consumers, right? The fourth segment which I'll touch upon is probably the space of the gaming. Not very popular in India. It not used to be popular in India because gaming, keep in mind, gaming worldwide is almost equivalent size of media and entertainment industry in the world space. And we have the large players like EA and GameSoft and Take-Two. There are a lot of players are there. I myself had an opportunity of working almost 10 years in a gaming company, which is one of our company in UK, in one of the world's largest console racing studio. It used to be a console gaming studio with Formula One license. So I have got an opportunity of learn the sector probably from outside India perspective. But in India, what is happening is this space is similarly young population, negligible data cost. We are finding significant growth in the mobile gaming space. And this mobile gaming space is also largely into, or the online gaming space is also basically 2 or 3 types which are growing currently in India. One we are calling as real money game. So all your Ludo and Rummy or Timpattis of the world, each of those companies, while many of us are not aware, are like all 1,000 crore odd businesses they have been doing in their pockets and segment. And then the other segment is all the fantasy games, like all your Dream 11 of the world, right? There are at least 8 or 10 players doing a significant business and a significant opportunity there. I mean, today, if you look at Dream 11, a few years old, I mean, how many, probably few years old company is already getting valued at close to a $5 billion. Nazara got listed, another mobile gaming company, couple of months back. It also has a valuation of close to $500 million. So gaming is a space which is again growing significantly. The growth rate of gaming is larger than the growth rate of digital and streaming, almost like a 27% CAGR it is going year on year. The few of the other segment which I'm not touching upon, probably I think it will take much more longer time. We have again a very stable segment like a print and some of the like radio, then you have a music and etc. But the top level of growth, what we are seeing are probably digital, we are seeing gaming, animation. I have not touched upon animation is also showing significant growth opportunity. Television broadcasting is the bread and butter, so nothing can be. Television and the films are like the core sectors which are already there. That's broadly is the overall environment where we are today in this particular space. I'll probably a little bit, because I think a little bit of instruction came to me is also that I need to touch upon also that how do we create content or how do we market content or monetize. Probably I'll give a little bit of flavor on that part of the aspect also. Now, again, these are very sector specific. So let me touch with film and probably I'll touch with film, OTT and television. And that will give a broad idea of the situation. Anything what you will create in a content, the most important is the story. And that's why I think in our world, we say that content is the key. Because irrespective of the star or irrespective of the marketing, irrespective of the money you spend, irrespective of the budget, what you do, ultimately the story does not take it forward beyond a point. The content is generally will end up as a damper. In case of films, similarly, so in case of film or whether you are making a OTT film or a show, or you are making a film for a theatrical, or somebody is making for a television, it all starts with a story. So the first thing what happens is that you get a script writer and somebody comes with a story. Now story also, it happens many phases. Sometimes somebody say, I have a great idea. The story is not even written. And if the idea is great, we probably as a company invest a writer and invest a set of team members and they start developing the idea into creating a story. Or many of the time a scriptwriter comes with a bound script, probably a 140-page script or 130-page script. He will come and say, okay, I have the entire story written and this is a script. Script again will be 3 phases. It can be a broad script, it can be a screenplay, but the scenes are also set. And there are situations where you will also have the dialogues written. So the first judgment call one needs to take with a creative judgment call is this story I'll be greenlighting or not? Is it the story I'll support or not? That's largely a creative team within in most of this organization take a call. Whether it's a studio or whether it's a Netflix, it happens more or less the same way. We basically, in our language, we say we create a Bible. Sometimes when you go to a platform, we create a Bible. So you basically make a 30, 40 page presentation, you write out 1 or 2 episodes in case of streaming. In case of feature film, you generally have to come with a complete script written. Once the creative greenlighting happens, that okay, this story is good enough to be backed, and this story I'll put a set of writers to write. Then comes the next phase, that how do you package it? What does packaging means in our world? In our world, packaging means what are the kind of technicians will come, what are the kind of actors will come, for every characters, who are the suitable actors, what are the kind of their commercial, what are the kind of their dates, what are the key technician in every film or series. There are some technicians which are extremely important. They're as important as like getting an important actor. So you have to get a great DOP, means the guy who is going to take the photograph. You have to get a great editor. You have to have a great sound designer. You have to get the great music composer. So there will be 5 or 6 core technician. In totality, when a film gets made, anything between 250 means anything between 150 to 400 maybe a team size when the film is on the floor. But at least the HODs or the head of the department of the key teams, that segment is very important, that how you get the best of the team, best of the technician. Similarly, you have to get the finest of the actors, whether they are star value or from the performance value, you get the actors. These activities called packaging. Once you package them around your story, then you know, okay, these are my artists, these are my technician, this is the story. Depending upon their date and timeline, and somebody already, the first guy to be appointed will be the director, and somebody is already a director. The timeline of this whole activity, we are looking at it, say probably 1 year down the line, shoot will go on the floor, or 6 months down the line. And then we'll start working on a budget. Once the packaging is done, then people have to start working on the budget. How do you do a budget? People will break the whole story into scenes. How many scenes? When you will shoot which portion? What will be the combination? Means which actor doing what? What are the locations? What are the props you will require? What are the costumes you will require? Everything. I mean, I'm saying probably in 2 minutes, what is probably an activity of a month. You work on them and then you put it together. There are very industry specific budget softwares are there, where basically you have to break down into scene, that every scene, suppose if you're seeing a particular scene, in that scene, everything comes which is in the camera is there is a requirement. Even if there is a small teapot in the camera, so somebody has to think of that as a prop, what is the cost of hiring, vis-a-vis buying, and that has to be calculated in your budget exercise. So that way, I mean, there are software like Movie Magic, etc. also, so you create the budget. So something you creatively greenlight, then you get the artists, technicians, and everyone on the board. Then you calculate the budget, and then you have to take the financial call. That financially, does this film can be greenlit or not? That stage, the producer, the guy who is investing money or who is setting up everything, he also have to take a call that is it possible that what is the kind of money I am investing? What are my risk and return? What are the returns I am expecting? So if it is a feature film, there will be broadly what? At least 5 odd streams of revenue. The significant main revenue, we call it as a theatrical revenue. Means when you go to a cinema hall, when you go to South City Mall and buy a ticket for 300 rupees, that is the box office ticket you pay. From there, government takes a certain tax, which is GST. Then the exhibitor takes a certain portion. That means South City Mall or INOX will take a certain amount of money, and the balance amount of money will come to the producer. So this is called theatrical business. Theatrical. So one has to calculate how much theatrical business will happen in India. One has to calculate how much theatrical business will happen globally outside India. That is called overseas business. So in overseas also, Indian movies, a big movie or a big budget movie will go to almost 80-90 countries to be released, right? So in 80-90 countries, you calculate your revenue potential. Third is that, so you calculate India theatrical, you calculate overseas theatrical, then you calculate streaming platform, the kind of money is what a Netflix and Amazon will pay to stream the movie on their platform. Then you will take satellite price, that means the kind of money what a Star TV will pay for playing the movie on their platform. And then there will be revenues like with the music companies, we generally call it music. So the music companies will pay some money, there will be some in-film revenue. There'll be some marketing butter, etc. So that is one segment. So you have to calculate that. Then you know, okay, cost versus return or investment versus cost, does it make sense to greenlit? Once you greenlit, of course, the project goes into then planning and execution phase. A very important part of film monetization is also marketing. A movie, at least, so movie marketing in some manner starts from the day when the shooting starts. So even the marketing, there are 4 or 5 segments. There are traditional marketing. When I mean traditional marketing, basically you are buying media and inventory and spend. So you buy inventory on your television, you buy inventory on your digital, you put your ads on the YouTube, you put your ads on any medium, any audiovisual medium. Second, you buy inventory on the newspaper. So you give those full page ad, the such and such movie releasing on such and such date, or this movie is playing in this theater. That is that you are buying inventory on the newspaper ad. Fourth situation which happens is the outdoor. So you put your hoardings, you put your walling, you see those outdoors in the metro station in every city, within the train, airports, several places we put up those outdoors. So these are all part of the marketing. Then you do your integration. You find your actors going into the television shows, you find your actors going into fictional or non-fictional shows and talking about it. Then you integrate with your event. You do certain event, you will suddenly find before the release of a movie, Akshay Kumar has gone and sitting with the BSF and talking about something. While it may look as subtle as possible, but they're basically doing a movie campaign in that space. Okay. Then if it's an issue-based film, you will find your actors talking even in the news channels and talking about it. Then you will find your integration or marketing is like what we call a BTL in our language, at a theater hall driven. So when before the film comes, you will find the promo of the film will be playing in the theater halls. You'll find standees, you'll find posters in the theater hall of the upcoming films and etc. Another very important part of the overall marketing is the PR, public relation, right? So on one hand is your mainstream marketing or the media buying when it is happening. On the other hand, PR has to be handled very carefully. PR means basically how is your communication going to the entire news, digital media as well as the news media as well as the print media. So there will be interviews, there will be stories, there will be editorials, there will be advertorials. You will find your Bombay Times story. So these are all a segment of the PR, and it is not only print; it is also very strongly heavy on the digital aspect. Fourth, you will find your actors and talents coming out and doing the multiple city tour. They'll go to event, they'll go to Delhi, they'll go to Bombay, they'll talk to the press, they'll go to schools and colleges, they'll go to large events and make the noises. So, and whatever, all these segments, whatever I'm talking, it is actually, it happens in every industry. It happens in Hollywood also, it happens in China also, it happens in India also, different markets. Every market has certain nuances. Something happens more, something happens less. But that's broadly is the industry, and the film marketing and etc. takes place. A comparable scenario, if I look at, say, a marketing situation in an OTT or the streaming platform, the greenlighting process broadly the same. You have to first strike or first get an approval at a story level. If you get an approval at a story level, they will come, the platform will come and sign up something which they call a development contract. Okay, I sign up for a development contract. I'm not giving the financial green light. You take 1 year time, develop your stories, completely write everything, and then come back to have a financial green light. So before financial green light, similarly, you have to identify your packaging and artists and talents and financial budget. And then a Netflix will say, okay, I want to do the Sacred Games or not. This is my budget. At this budget, I want to do it or not. The marketing in streaming platform, of course, happen a little differently. You will find the marketing is largely digital driven. The objective of marketing is also slightly different. The objective of marketing in a film or marketing or the whole activity is that how you get the audience out of your home, drive down or take a bus or a cab to all the way to the theater hall and buy a ticket. You need a large amount of commitment. Okay, for a guy to go all out from your home to go to a cinema hall to buy a ticket, give 3 hours of his time, sit down and see a film. Whereas in television world or a streaming world, you don't like something to surf in 5 minutes, you are just with the remote, you are moving out. So that commitment, that overall environment is very different. So in streaming world, the marketing is not necessarily how do you pick up the first day number. In cinema, it is very important that what will be the first day number, because every denominator is after the first day number. If I get a 30 crore, 40 crore value on the day one, then we know how, if the movie is holding well, then what will be the second day number, what will be the third day number, how the box office will work. In streaming world, it is not like that. So streaming world, the marketing will be over a phase after it is released. So you'll find some marketing before the release, but then they will constantly market on their platform or on other digital platform to get audience and sample. You have to get audience and sample. It is more word of mouth. Some things is doing well, so get other people to come into their Netflix, get a subscription and see the content. So in case of OTT streaming, I think the marketing is very much largely focused towards the digital. Little bit, definitely some segment they will do an outdoor also and etc. But not like the film. The film, it is very much segmented towards the inventories across other medium. Also you will find the normal interviews and etc. happen, but stars and etc. probably don't take that much city tour or events as we see in a case of film. So that's the two broad situation or broad segment of marketing part what we have seen. In case of television content greenlighting, any content greenlighting, probably the process is ideally same. The first you have to get a correct tick the box at a story level. Once the story level is there, then the financial greenlighting will happen. The financial greenlighting happen, then fine. Of course, as a producer, when somebody is making a film, he takes the onus of the entire financial risk. But in case of a television serial or in case of a OTT serial or OTT content, the financial risk is taken by the platform because they pay for it. So you go by more like a work on hire, cost plus margin. But in case of a film, the producer invests the entire money and then take the chance. Producer or a studio, whoever comes on the show, whoever takes that one. So broadly, those are the segment in terms of little bit. Sorry, I probably at a certain paucity of time, I'm just trying to hurry up and saying that what are the segment I should touch upon. That's broadly the situation. Gaming is one segment, as I mentioned. Animation is also growing up very fast in the country. And good part, for a longish period of time, we always used to say that we are the best outsourced country. But probably last 5 years, we are at least 5 to 7 years, we're saying Indian IPs or Indian intellectual properties we are creating and we are taking it globally. So whether you look at a Chhota Bheem, you are looking at Little Singham, we actually Reliance are one of the largest 2D animation studio in the country. So a lot of our own IPs are now we are creating and taking it globally. Animation film, we still have not been able to be successful like the success what I've seen in Hollywood. But I'm pretty sure that part also will be able to bridge the gap at some stage or other. So yeah, so broadly, I think that's the situation. I think the other segment, a few other segments, we are saying significant change. Like if you look at music industry, the industry which is very physical, means either you're selling cassette or basically CDs and etc. It is completely now online. It is completely digital. It is getting a next level up. The industry was completely wiped off in between, but it is showing a significant growth now because the revenue is completely digital. The platforms have started monetizing. So you have a Ghana or Spotify, or each of these companies are getting their own valuation. They're spending a lot of money for the content creation. So basically, the medium of distribution is shifting to digital. That is a good sign. So a lot of hurdles of physical struggles are not there. Marketing also is now focused accordingly. So broadly, that is the aspect. In the overall media and entertainment, I think we are in a great shape. Of course, last 1.5 years has been terrible, especially for the film industry per se, because cinema halls are still closed. But digital, we have seen significant growth. Gaming, we have seen significant growth. I think on an overall basis, next 3 to 5 years, we are hoping that India will probably become one of the industry where as a world media and entertainment industry, it will reach some place of, it's already there, but it will reach more and more mileage in that space. The second aspect, what is happening is that now Indian storyteller stories are going globally. With the streaming platform, that's the best part what has happened, is that it is not only the people are coming to India for India's the so-called 1.3 billion population, Indian storytellers are now taking their stories globally. So that is the second aspect happening. So with broadly that, I think I'll probably summarize the discussion. I'm not sure how much coherent was the discussion, a lot of stuff we can talk about, but I'm happy to take any questions, any thought processes, and accordingly we can chat.
Thank you so much, sir. It was very insightful, and especially the details that you have mentioned about the industry. Probably the way we look at the industry is very different from how it works from the other side of the table, and that was very interesting to know. We already have a couple of questions, so I'll probably read them out to you.
Sure.
Yeah. So I have received two questions on COVID, and I would like to collate them and read them out to you. COVID has given a boost to the OTT market, which has led to a proliferation of new entrants in the last 1 year. Other than focusing on exclusive content, what else can the market leaders do to create entry barriers to stop the proliferation further?
Sorry, I don't think I've been able to hear you properly. If you can just articulate a little slowly.
Sure. COVID has given a boost to the OTT market, which has led to the proliferation of new entrants in last 1 year.
Sure.
Other than focusing on exclusive content, what else can the market leaders do to create entry barriers to stop the proliferation further?
So if you look at the streaming opportunity, there are broadly three segments where the streaming is happening worldwide, and India is no difference. India probably has not yet picked up that much. So the first part, what we see is called the exclusive content or subscription VOD, which we say, where basically a subscriber has to pay a certain amount of money to get a subscriber of a particular platform, and only if you're a subscriber of that platform, you can consume a content. The segment, what is probably larger, but not so organized in India, and that probably one should, and I'm seeing that probably next few years, the sector will also move in that space, probably what we call as AVOD or advertisement-driven VOD. So when you are making a content, you don't know that which platform you have to pay and you have invested, but it can be driven by an advertiser. Like when you put a content in YouTube, when you put a content on YouTube, the revenue is basically coming from a situation of how many hits it is happening, and then how much advertisement it is happening, and that's why, and that's the money where it is coming from. The market is still nascent in India, that phase, but globally, advertisement-driven VOD is quite an established norm, and there are large players who are playing in that space. I think the biggest example probably will be YouTube. And then last is basically what we call as a TVOD or the transaction VOD. So when you make a content, you neither are going to an AVOD or neither you're going to a subscription VOD, but you are saying, hey, you want to see my content, you put 10 rupees. So for every transaction, one has to pay a certain price. If you have noticed that probably a month back on the day of the Eid, there's a big film called Radhe, Salman Khan film. The film was bad, that's a different issue. But they experimented with a transaction VOD model. So you have to pay $4.99, $2.99, $3.99 and get the chance of seeing the film as well as a subscription. So yes, you need not have to have one particular route when you are creating content for platform. Monetization route can be multiple.
All right, related to COVID again, I have another question for you. So it is more about cinema sector. So cinema sector has been impacted very negatively due to COVID. And this person Aman wants to know, how do you see the revival of this industry after COVID?
So, Aman, I think this is probably one area, last 18 months we have been discussing in different forums, right? And for us, it is important because it is bread and butter for us, right? The belief is getting now converted into reality is that whenever any country is able to come out of the fear of the COVID, that means either it has through vaccination or the disease has got in a control and there is not so much of a stress, the people in general, means human mankind in general, they are outdoor loving people. They don't, while I'm not taking anything away from consumption of content on an OTT platform, but that viewing of a content in your drawing room is very different of a collective viewing with 400 people whistling and clapping on your hero entering the screen, right? These experiences are very different. So while last 18 months, a lot of analysts have probably said that this is the end of exhibition, but what is happening, and I'll give you example, there is example after example, like the first country which came out of the COVID scenario, Surprisingly, but anyway, we are all aware of it, is China. So the first time the China film industry opened up their theaters is something around last July. June 20, July 20. And from that time to now, we have seen that Chinese films, local Chinese film and large size film have gone and done $500 million to $1 billion of business. The first one was a Chinese film called 800. It is a war film. It went on to do some $470 million business. Then there was a film called Jiangjia. Then there was a film called Red Rose. Then there was a film which they launched during their Chinese New Year. Then a couple of sequel they released. Hi Mom, which went on to become again an $800 million business. So at least 8 to 10 films from mid 2020 to now, we have seen have gone to do a $500 million to $1 billion kind of number, which is like a significant number. So basically, somewhere people are saying that audience are coming back with almost like a vengeance into the hall. We have seen the same thing in Korea. If you're familiar with the international film, there's a film called Peninsula, which was a sequel to Train to Busan. Then there was a horror film called Alive. Both of them do significant business in Korea. Look at Spain. In between, when the last year after the Europe things become a little bit better, Spanish films which came and did a significant business there. Look at Hollywood. If you are tracking English films and if you're tracking of course, we have seen the business what Tenet did or Wonder Woman did. It's still very much modest in those markets. But last 1 month, you look at A Quiet Place 2, went on to do more than $100 million. Look at F9, this weekend is going to break $150 million. Look at this one, Black Widow. Again, it has crossed $100 million. I think Black Widow's opening number is like one of the biggest in last 3-4 years, even in the pre-COVID. I think between Thursday and Friday, it went on to do some $35-40 million. So significant level of audience is coming back. Why go that far? You look at India, in the January and February, there are films released in Tamil, Vijay's Film Master. Or if you look at the Telugu films which got released during that period of time in the Pongal and Sankranti, they went on to do significant business. So I am extremely hopeful that whenever the fear of the disease will be in control, audience is going to come back and the exhibition sector actually will show a multiple level of growth. Once the disease fear will come to some level of control.
Right. I really hope that time comes soon. So I'll move to another question. This question is by Maria Rose. The OTT market is currently witnessing a rapid growth phase. How long do you foresee a consolidation coming to this market?
Sorry, you were saying how long?
How long do you foresee a consolidation coming to this market?
Yeah, I think you are correct. Actually, consolidation is already due because we have already close to 40 players in this market. As I mentioned, the top 8 to 9 players are big players, which are either global players or Indian broadcaster-led players. From the 9th or 10th to all the way to 35-40, you have individual players in every market who are doing some niche segment. The market is not that big enough that so many players can survive and do well. In my mind, what's going to happen is the next 5 years, we'll see advent of more global players in this market, whether it's an Apple or HBO Max or any of those names which I've mentioned earlier, they are going to launch here. At the same point of time, probably in all put together, the market cannot sustain more than probably 15 odd players. Out of which 15 odd players, probably 7 to 8 will be global players and 7 to 8 will be large Indian corporates. When I mean corporates, mainly the MNCs and etc. Because you also need a substantial level of investment potential, substantial level of cash burn to grow and sustain. Exactly what we have seen in the broadcasting space. So I already think that there are players which are getting merged or which are probably looking for getting picked up or consolidation. That is very much on the cards. We don't have a market for 35-40 players. That definitely is on the cards.
All right. So I'll move to another question. And keeping the time in mind, I would request that probably this will be our last question for the day. And we can write to you in case we have more questions. But yeah. So I'll read the question for you. How was the transition from one sector to another was for you? Would you advise such vertical shifts? So probably this is more from a career point of view.
Absolutely possible. just follow. You should do something which you are happy to do. At any stage in your career, if you're finding that you are not enjoying your job, or you are not enjoying whatever you are doing, forget the job. You are not enjoying whatever you're doing. Take a punt. When I took a jump from an FMCG, I used to work in a Godrej Group company. It's huge turnover, significantly profitable. I used to get a significant level of bonus apart from my salary every year. Life was easy and life was great. But probably what happened in my 7-8 years in Godrej, in my probably not even 7-8, I was probably 6 years. In 6 years, I got 3 promotions and 4 transfer. So every single year, I used to do something new. By the end of the year, I used to get a little bit of already that, okay, I have done this now, let me do something else. And after 6-7 years, I figured out that I worked in factory, I worked in international markets, I worked in sales and marketing, I worked in the branch head. So I was not getting the high which one should get. And I took a career jump into probably a company which is 1/5 or 1/6 of that point of time. A small company, small promoter-driven company, with no clarity about the industry, no clarity of the financial, and FMCG vis-a-vis media and entertainment. Today also people will not compare, right? But so yes, past 5-6 months was a little bit of struggle and etc. But you enjoy. If you enjoy, then probably next 18-20 years I'm in that sector. I have just moved from one organization to another. But you thrive, and I have changed my role profile also. I've been a hardcore finance guy, but probably from there moved on to running a business. Ultimately, it's people management skill and working with interpersonal relationship skill, because you get a great team, the team works for you at the end of the day. So absolutely, at any point of time, if you think that you need to take a job, don't get afraid that what will happen. Nothing will happen. At this, that will be a wrong call. You'll again come back into mainstream after 2 years down the line. So that's not a challenge.
That is a wonderful piece of advice, sir. So we have more questions and they they're coming. So I think for the, to respect the time, I would like to send you these questions and probably you could reply them over mail and I will forward it to all the people who have asked these questions.
Sure.
So we would like to close the session. I would really like to thank you for making up time today and giving us really, really very good insights on, the industry. And from your experience, what is more beautiful is to, look at different aspects of the same industry. And at last, I would like to request you to give a small career advice to everybody who's here, because, we're all in that phase right now. And it'll be great if you could give us a piece of advice that would apply to all of us.
Right. So, no, first of all, I think anyway, thank you for giving me this opportunity. When some people said you have to come to speak something to IIM kids, I myself get a little bit stressed. They are the best brains in the country. IIT and IIM guys are the best. So what I'm going to be a media and entertainment guy going to talk about it. But so we only talk about from life experience, right? So that's the only thing which happens in situation. So from a career perspective now, while of course I am looking at that juncture of your career from the other side, probably because I spent 25 years back when I passed out my CA, I was probably looking at that where we should move in my thing. Of course, from a job security point of view, you should take a jump wherever it's. I mean, there are so many parameters, like what kind of company, what kind of scope, what are the monies, which city posting, what kind of role profile. These are all important. And probably in the first stage of your career, it is good to take a decent, secure job. Nothing wrong in that. But in the same breath, don't lose what is your passion in the situation. If you take up a job, you definitely take up the job and give your heart and soul in that. But if something else, if you think that apart from whatever you are doing, if something else is your call, then you should find a way how to reach there. Also keep in mind that degrees are only first passport. I mean, it's like a passport for your first flight. After that, no one cares after your first job, no one cares whether you are an IITian or IIM graduate, or you are coming from Harvard, or you are coming, or a chartered accountant or anything, then everything counts in life. How smartly and how focused manner and how devoted manner you are doing your job, and that becomes the stepping stone for your next part of the career. At least when we look at candidates subsequently, for the first job, it is very important. The degrees are important, the schools are important, which B school somebody is coming from, how good somebody is giving the interview, and etc. All these things are important. But after that, when you get your second job or third job, you will figure out that people are not interested, because I'm not saying not interested, because it will be given that, okay, you are coming from a good B school. So you will have certain things which you are supposed to have. You will have certain qualities which you are supposed to have. So that's not surprising. People will only start choosing you for a particular role profile based on your experience, based on your confidence. Very important also is, apart from your curriculum knowledge, what are your interpersonal relationship skills? How you can get people to work with you. In career, it is not a one-man show. Wherever you work, in whichever field you work, it is not a one-man show. You have to work with a team. How good you can mingle with your team, whether you're seniors, whether you're colleagues, whether you're juniors. How good you get the output of your team. Ultimately, you will be marked on a result. That result will be very rarely will happen as an individual result. It will be always a collaboration. And if it is a collaboration, your key objective will be how you carry people with you. You will have to be a people's person. If you are a people's person, if people walk with you, people walk with your vision, some point of time, don't have that hesitation, or don't have that, maybe 10 years down the line, you will be working in a role where you are probably senior to so many people, but ideas can come from anywhere. A problem solution can come from anywhere. You have to be open-minded to take that decision, to take that suggestion, so that people can also confide with you. So these are the basic. I'm not talking of you guys are subject experts, so I'm no one to give you a guidance on your subject areas. But in your journey of next 5, 10, 20 years, 25 years, 30 years, I think the most important is that how do you conduct yourself with your people on a particular goal, and are you choosing the best people to work with you? If best people works with you, your performance will be best. So that's on a general way. In an individual way, take the job, your first job, which one is important for your family, which one is important for you. But at the same point of time, keep an objective that does it satisfy you, or you want to do something else. Don't hesitate if you need to do something else to take that call at some point of time.
That was an amazing piece of advice, and probably we'll always keep that in mind, because all of us will be managers, and hopefully whatever you've just said will definitely be useful for all of us wherever we go. So thank you so much, sir, for sharing your experience industrially and personally as well. And I would really look forward to connect with you again in future. And on the behalf of the entire Marcy team, I really want to thank you once again.
Thank you so much. Thanks for giving me an opportunity to speak. Thank you.